When Daniel's goddess returned to her home country, we both made it to the top search list. She was the top star in the entertainment industry. I was mocked as the desperate fangirl who loved in vain. When Daniel called, his tone was indifferent. "I have a business dinner tonight, won't be coming home." I looked out the car window as he walked into the hotel with his goddess. "All right." Before I could respond, a sudden force from behind knocked the breath out of me. Daniel paused. "What are you doing?" I bit my lip and hung up the phone. A hot breath was now close to my ear, the person's movements more aggressive. Guess if he'll see us over here. Chapter 1. The news of Erica's return to her home country had been trending for a month. When I went to meet Daniel at a gathering, I paused briefly at the entrance. I happened to overhear his friends inside. "Erica is coming back soon, what about Iris then?" Daniel's voice was calm. "What about her? In any case, she is your lawfully wedded wife." Through the slightly ajar door, I saw Daniel with a cigarette, his features hidden in the pale smoke. Mockingly, he said. "She herself said that no matter how far I go, she won't leave me because she loves me." His friend agreed. True, the Bennett family has been in decline for so long. She could marry Daniel only because of her face resembling Erica's. It's really despicable. Do you know what she did at the beginning? I stood outside in silence for a while before pushing the door open. "Daniel." The room fell silent for a moment, everyone looked up with secretive disdain and mockery in their eyes. Daniel draped his coat over his arm and stood up. "I'm heading home." As we walked to the parking lot, he was silent until I started the car, then suddenly spoke. "You heard everything outside the door, didn't you?" I turned to look at him. There was a shadow by the door. He lightly tapped the car window with his knuckles. "Iris, you've always been self-aware, knowing what to say. In a month, I hope you'll still be sensible and not do anything foolish." I understood. Daniel was warning me, fearing that I might use some dirty means to hurt his beloved goddess. Because in half a month, Erica would be returning to her home country. Before I married Daniel, I knew I was just a substitute. The Bennett family had long been in decline. Because of a face that was 7 points similar to the famous star Erica, I caught Daniel's eye and became his fiancée. My parents were overjoyed, my father constantly warned me. "The fact that President Daniel has taken a liking to you is an honor for our Bennett family. If you upset President Daniel, your mother and I will no longer recognize you as our daughter." After 3 years of marriage, I took care of Daniel meticulously. But whenever he faced me, he was always aloof. There were a few times when he was drunk, he would pinch my chin, scrutinize me from head to toe, and disdainfully say, "Are you worthy of having a face like hers?" A bit more intoxicated, he would mistake me for Erica, bury his face in my shoulder, and softly ask, "Why did you leave me? Now that I've married someone else, will you regret it?" At those times, Daniel was almost like a kind of torment with a hint of cruelty. If I struggled even a little, it would be met with his cold sarcasm. "So, because your parents want you to please me, you're going to please me like this?" Under the lights, his eyes looking down at me were full of coldness. The small mole on the tip of his nose was more pronounced under the light. I froze instantly, my eyelashes trembling, obediently closing my eyes. Regaining my composure, I gripped the steering wheel tightly and softly responded, "Understood." Chapter 2. The day Erica returned, the airport was crowded with fans waiting to greet her. Daniel had hired people to create a rose pathway of over 10 meters at the arrival gate. Erica walked along the pathway, moved, and threw herself into Daniel's arms at the end of the corridor. This scene was captured, filtered with an atmosphere and text, and instantly surged to the top of the hot search. Everlasting partiality. Erica was the daughter of a wealthy family, a true beauty. Their initial debut and relationship with Daniel had been a sensation. Even after they broke up, despite her studying abroad, and despite Daniel marrying me, there were still plenty of fans shipping them online. Sitting in the car in the parking lot below the company, I curled up, clutching my aching stomach, and opened the trending search list. Apart from Daniel and Erica, my name was also on it. Iris, the knockoff. Gold-digging mistress, Erica's beauty is smeared by her, truly unlucky. Erica's fans despised me. They thought I, a fallen aristocrat, only managed to marry into the Whittaker family's elite circle because of this face resembling hers. Some even said I was a third party who forced Erica abroad, and every so often, they would drag me out to criticize me. But Daniel never clarified on my behalf. There was even a time when I saw the message he sent to Erica. If scolding her can calm you down, I'll have someone stir the pot even more. Can you come back earlier? I just found out. Those who cursed at me were arrogant because of Daniel's indulgence, even encouragement. I quietly looked at the obscene words in the comments for a while. Just as I was about to close Weibo, a new topic suddenly popped up. In an instant, it pushed Daniel and Erica's romantic love story down to second place and rose to the top of the hot search. #Harry returns. The familiar name made me freeze for a moment. When I realized it, my fingertips trembled unconsciously as I clicked on the screen. It was a video. A man in a black t-shirt, sharp eyes, a prominent mole on his nose. He walked out of the crowd with a cold expression, stepping on the carefully prepared rose pathway. Daniel stopped him, his voice filled with anger. "Are you blind? Can't you see the way?" The man turned his face, the diamond stud on his earlobe sparkling. "Sorry." His tone was calm, his gaze sweeping over, as if looking at some obstruction in his path. "How much do you need? I'll have my agent contact you for compensation." "Is this about money?" "It's not about money." Harry glanced at the scattered flowers on the ground, slowly raised his head, word by word. "Or are you trying to set up a scam?" Chapter 3. On the hot search, Erica's fans and Harry's fans were arguing. What's this guy acting all high and mighty for? Does he really think he's handsome? Being a world champion is way cooler than proudly boasting about having an affair in a marriage. If you can't see it, go get your eyes checked. World champion. This title left me momentarily stunned. After coming back to my senses and searching, I finally understood. Harry, a professional sports player in the European region, won the championship at last year's World Championship. Recently, he was hired back to the country by a domestic club for an annual salary of 40 million. With exceptional gaming skills and a striking appearance, he had an astonishingly large number of fans both domestically and internationally. So, he had become such a dazzling figure now. I rubbed my aching stomach, and in my rapidly blurring vision, it seemed like I saw the young man from back then once again. In the pouring rain, he was like a wet, disheveled little puppy waiting under my building all night. On my phone, there were messages from him. "Do you really not want me anymore? Did I do something wrong? Did I hurt you? Iris, please don't beg me to reconcile in the future." Harry blocked all my contact information, listened to his family's arrangements, and went abroad. For the next 7 years, I never heard from him again. Unexpectedly, the next time I saw him was on a romantic scene prepared by my husband for another woman. How absurd. I closed my eyes tightly, almost able to imagine how those beautiful and sharp eyes looked at the trending topic of fake Iris, with mocking eyes. What would he be thinking? Probably that I deserved it. Chapter 4. In the evening, Daniel didn't come home. He only sent me a message. "Having a gathering tonight, you sleep alone, no need to wait for me." Out of habit, I replied. "Do you need me to pick you up?" After sending it, I realized that Erica had already returned. The gathering he mentioned was probably the welcome dinner prepared by those friends for her. Sure enough, Daniel sent an extremely contemptuous taunt. "Do I have to spell it out for you? Iris, know your place." I silently put down my phone, took a shower, then walked into the study and left the divorce agreement prepared by the lawyer during the day in Daniel's study. Coming out, I saw a new friend request on the screen. Note, Harry. I stared at those 3 words for a long time. After a while, I took a deep breath and pressed accept. Almost immediately, a photo was sent over. In the dimly lit bar booth, Daniel had his arm around Erica's waist, his lips pressed against her cheek, an extremely intimate posture. My eyes stung, biting my lip, I almost trembled as I typed to him. "Are you here to laugh at me?" Harry didn't reply immediately. The words typing at the top of the screen made my heart sink a little. After a moment, he sent a message. "Do you want to get back at them?" I entered the bar. I looked at the booth number Harry sent on my phone, about to grab a passing waiter to ask for directions. Suddenly, a familiar voice sounded. "Here." A warm force covered my wrist. The next moment, I was pulled over abruptly, crashing into a warm embrace. A familiar yet unfamiliar scent filled my senses in an instant. I stiffened, one hand behind my head, the other pressing me into the embrace. "Don't make a sound." Harry's voice sounded in my ear, deliberately lowered and slightly hoarse. "Your husband and his mistress just walked by, be careful not to be caught by them." There was obvious mockery in his tone. My eyes suddenly felt a bit hot. The Harry from 7 years ago wasn't like this. Back then, he was sincere, passionate. Pressing me against the piano, making it hard to breathe with his kisses, he would rest his forehead against mine and say softly, "Iris, you have to say we will be together forever. If you don't say it, I won't let go. How long do you plan on hugging me?" Harry's voice rang out again, violently pulling me back from my memories. I let go of his hand, looking at the familiar face in front of me. The proximity made the hint of coldness between his raised eyebrows even more distinct. I collected myself, trying to keep my voice calm. "I'm sorry." The rest of the journey was completely led by Harry. He expertly led me through dim corridors and into a silver-black Lamborghini parked outside. Starting the car, accelerating, following Daniel's car ahead. I couldn't help but ask, "Isn't it dangerous to drive under the influence?" "I haven't been drinking." Harry glanced at me. "Alcohol can affect performance, even the smallest detail is deadly on the track." He was talking about a world completely unfamiliar to me. I didn't know how to respond. Until the car stopped outside a luxurious apartment building, where Daniel was escorting Erica inside. I finally spoke up. "How do we go about this retaliation you mentioned?" Harry raised an eyebrow, pointing to himself. "I'll provide you with a candidate." "How about cheating on Daniel in return?" Chapter 5. Harry's residence was not far from the club's training center. As soon as I entered, he pinned me against the wall, holding my shoulders. He stopped inches away from my lips, calmly asking, "Can we start with a kiss?" I felt a bit overwhelmed. "Don't misunderstand." In the faint light coming through the window, he stared into my eyes, softly chuckled. "I just want to assess the situation." I clenched my fists, whispered agreement. The next second, my lips were sealed with almost brutal force, repeatedly grinding against mine. His scorching breath hit my neck, moving downward, his touch firm on the prominent butterfly bone on my back. "You've lost weight," he said softly, his tone suddenly gentle. "I'll be more gentle." Compared to 7 years ago, Harry is much more proactive now. Back then, I was the one who actively pursued him, and when difficulties arose, I voluntarily let him go. Harry must hate me, right? My heart felt like it was soaking in lemon juice, crumpling sourly. The pressure on top of me lightened in the next second. Harry's angry and icy voice sounded in my ear. "Iris, you're still distracted when you're with me. What, thinking about your husband who's cheating on you?" The lights suddenly brightened. It was as if all those hidden and filthy thoughts in my heart were suddenly exposed. Even though I didn't understand that completely unfamiliar world of esports, I could see from the fans' enthusiasm on Weibo. The current Harry has a bright future ahead of him. I shouldn't have involved him in this marital mess. I slowly straightened my body, calmly saying, "I'm sorry. This is between me and him, it shouldn't affect you." After saying this, Harry became even angrier. He chuckled sarcastically, leaned down, and kissed me harder. "Now you regret it, it's too late. Sister." In the long process of being deliberately pulled and dragged, I slowly regained memories from the past. The young Harry, full of energy. Now, he's no longer reckless like that, but his skills have become more proficient. He still had the energy to wipe away the tears at the corners of my eyes when I was tormented, teasingly saying, "Crying already? Sister, it seems like your husband isn't doing too well." The next morning when I woke up, it was already bright outside. I was woken up by the ringing of my phone. As soon as I answered, Daniel's voice came from the other end. "Where are you?" "At the office." "Come back home immediately." There was suppressed anger in his tone. "Iris, who do you think you are to talk about divorce with me?" The call ended, and as I tried to get up, a force wrapped around my waist, pulling me back onto the bed. Harry held my shoulders, his face looking very unpleasant. "Are you planning to use me and then run away?" I took a couple of breaths, reached out, held his wrist, and gently moved it away. In a serious tone, I said, "I have to go back and take care of my own matters." Chapter 6. I just entered the house, and a few documents fell heavily on my face. The sharp edges cut my cheek, and as I wiped it, I saw the bright red on my fingertips. Daniel stood a step away, his expression grim. "You're asking for a divorce because Erica is back? Is today the first day you found out about me and her? Back then, you willingly accepted being lowly, willing to marry me, willingly becoming her substitute. What's the meaning of this now?" "It doesn't mean anything." I picked up the divorce agreement papers from the floor, quietly looking at him. "Over these years, Bennett Corporation did indeed receive a lot of help from you, but I secured the $10 billion contract for the Songlan district for Whitaker Corporation, so we're even." "Even? You're dreaming." Daniel sneered, walked over, pinched my chin and lowered his head. "You're upset because of those topics online that are criticizing you?" I didn't respond, he took it as my agreement and chuckled to himself. "All right, Iris, kneel down and please me. If you can make me happy, I'll have someone remove those online criticisms, how about that?" A very sweet perfume scent emanated from him. It was the one Erica usually wore. Without needing to observe closely, a casual glance would reveal the ambiguous marks left on Daniel's neck and shoulders. Before his kiss landed, I suddenly pushed Daniel away. "Don't forget, Erica is back." Caught off guard by my push, Daniel took a few steps back, hitting the entrance cabinet behind him. His face instantly darkened. "If you don't sign, I'll have the lawyer contact you for divorce proceedings. For the sake of the company's stock price, it's better if you just sign directly." I stood at the doorway, calmly looking at him. "I'll have someone come to pack up the things left here later." He rubbed his lip with his thumb, suddenly chuckling. "You've grown some guts, Iris, but you're nothing more than a dog I raised. In a month, I want you to crawl back, kneel on the ground and beg me to remarry." Ignoring his threat, I turned and walked away. After leaving, I preemptively blocked my parents' phone numbers and WeChat. Scrolling up, I saw a message from Harry. "I'm going to the club, closed training, we have a match in half a month. If it's urgent, call this number." Followed by a string of digits. I remained silent for a moment, replying with a simple okay. But Harry didn't respond further. Once again, I saw his name trending online. #Harry's alternate account. After opening it, I realized that someone had dug up Harry's Weibo account from many years ago when he was still in China. There wasn't much on the main page, just about 20 posts. Silly sister, inviting someone for a Coke and buying it at room temperature. Just the thought of seeing her, I can't focus on my game. Damn. I really like her. Practicing kissing skills. The last post was from 7 years ago during the summer. A slightly blurry photo. At the beach in the evening, a young boy and girl kissing, only their slightly unclear profiles visible. The caption read, "Endless Summer." Chapter 7. The whole internet exploded. Has anyone seen the photo of Harry and Erica on his alternate account? After all these years, both abroad and back home, he never dated anyone, turns out he was thinking about Erica all this time. I'm going crazy, so when he confronted Daniel at the airport that day, was it because he was jealous? The enthusiastic online audience brought out the photos and videos from that day at the airport, comparing them repeatedly, leading to countless fan-made edits. That night, there happened to be a live interview. Facing the camera, she smiled brightly, graceful. It's all in the past. After all, it's already history. I don't know why he's so hung up on it. Some observant fans quickly discovered a new piece of gossip, carefully comparing. They found that Daniel and Harry surprisingly shared some similarities in appearance, especially the mole on the bridge of their noses. Yet one carried an air of arrogance, while the other was completely indifferent to others. I'm sure Daniel must have seen this trending topic. He called, I hung up, then quickly sent a WeChat message. Iris, you better give me an explanation. I blocked him. The day of the match arrived quickly. Although it was just a regular game, due to being Harry's first match after returning to China and the intense recent love affair drama, the attention was off the charts, with 70 million viewers watching the live stream. Harry's team secured a 3-1 victory, and during the post-match interview, a journalist directly asked about the photo on his alternate account. Alternate account? Harry interlocked his fingers, resting his chin on them. You guys are really good at digging. Ever considered applying to the National Security Bureau? The journalist hesitated, then persistently asked. So, the girl in that photo, is she Erica? When you had a conflict with Daniel at the airport, was it because of jealousy? Erica. Harry glanced down at the excited journalists below the stage and suddenly let out a light laugh. She's worthy of that? Half a month after returning to China, Harry's name once again soared in the hot searches. Erica tried to gain some popularity but ended up being mocked by the masses. In the comment section, her fans and Harry's fans clashed once again. What an uncouth man, speaking about a girl like that. Hilarious, your master is trying to ride the wave of popularity and still expects others to respect her? Sitting in the car, I was still looking at the arguments in the comment section when someone snatched my phone away. What's so interesting about arguing? Look at me. My eyelashes fluttered as I raised my head under the dim car light. Harry sat beside me, reaching out to pull me into his arms, settling me on his lap. Can I kiss you? He asked me. Before I could respond, he added. It's best not to refuse a champion. The kiss lasted a long time, becoming more ambiguous as it gradually moved downwards. I rested my head on Harry's shoulder, looking at the light enveloping his palm, as if there were rushing waters flowing over it. Suddenly, the phone rang. An unknown number, I answered, only to hear Daniel's icy voice. Iris. I bit my lip, trying to calm my rapid breathing. Where are you? I want to see you. Before I could respond, I was jolted by a sudden force from behind. Daniel paused, his tone changing drastically. What are you doing? I couldn't find words to say, and with the last of my strength, I used my trembling fingertips to hang up the call. Harry leaned close to my ear, his movements becoming more intense, yet his voice soft as a whisper. Guess, did he hear that? Chapter 8. That night, Harry brought me back to his place. Those hands that could swiftly move across the keyboard, their speed was truly astonishing. The rain outside pattered down, making the whole world damp. Since Daniel hadn't signed yet, I hadn't told Harry about the divorce agreement. But somehow, he found out. And his way of referring to Daniel changed from your husband to your ex-husband. At the end of the month, there was a grand banquet. The organizers invited Harry and Erica, clearly aiming to stir up some controversy. When I went with Harry, I was still a bit puzzled. Why bring me along? He raised an eyebrow. To spite your ex-husband, how about that reason? Sure enough, Erica appeared with Daniel. She was dressed in a dazzling silver dress, chin slightly raised in her usual haughty manner. Daniel, who she had by her side, was staring directly at me, his expression extremely unpleasant. That expression, I've seen it on his face more than once. It was all due to the jealousy sparked by the tabloid news about Erica spreading back in China. After the awards ceremony concluded, Erica suddenly grabbed a bottle of wine and came to toast me and Harry. Sorry, because the person in that photo looks so much like me, I thought. I caused you trouble, I'm really sorry, can you forgive me? No, you can't. Harry said. Are you missing a brain or suffering from senile dementia? You dare to claim that the person in that photo was kissing. Erica, do we know each other from before? Have I seen you before? A hint of embarrassment flickered in Erica's eyes. In the end, she curved her lips into a smile. From now on, no one will misunderstand. I stared at the hint of resentment hidden in her eyes, feeling suddenly uneasy. After the banquet ended, Harry and I stayed in the hotel suite arranged by the organizers. Closing the door, I turned around, finally asking the question that had been buried in my heart for a long time. That photo. It was taken secretly by me during that trip to the beach. Harry admitted it candidly, self-deprecatingly saying, I thought you invited me because you really wanted to discuss our future with me. My nose suddenly tingled. From the Weibo posts he made those 2 days, it was evident how much Harry was looking forward to it and how excited he was at that time. And then, after we returned from the beach, I broke up with him without hesitation. I opened my mouth, about to speak. Harry's expression suddenly turned cold. Don't say anything yet. Don't you think there's a strange smell in the room? The air was filled with faint sweet fragrances, and I realized something, my face slightly changing as I took out my phone. Weibo had exploded, with the top 2 trending topics being #Iris cheats in marriage. #Harry the third party. Before I could react, the messy footsteps outside the door gradually approached. A few seconds later, the room's door that should have been locked was suddenly pushed open. A large group of reporters rushed in, countless camera lenses pointing at us, flashes flickering brightly and dimly. The cheating couple is here. Chapter 9. The boss still wants to see how I operate? Harry pushed away the keyboard in front of him, turning to look at me. Actually, don't worry, you also watched the live match that night, I'm sure. He seemed to have just noticed the group of reporters who barged in, his voice trailing off. When he spoke again, he raised an eyebrow, his gaze turning cold. You seem to be in high spirits, not going back to rest so late and disturbing my conversation with the boss. What does this mean? Do you want to ruin the investment we've worked so hard to bring to the team? All the reporters present were stunned. Because in the room, Harry and I, dressed neatly, were sitting in front of Harry's laptop, analyzing his match replay. A few seconds later, a reporter finally spoke up. Harry, may I ask why Iris, as Daniel's wife, attended the banquet with you, and why were you both still in your room late at night? Harry chuckled. Because she is my future boss. Details of the business cooperation will be announced later by the club's official account, as for the rest. He stood up, took a step forward, positioning me behind him, his tone indifferent. There's nothing to see here, so please leave. The reporters looked disappointed, their faces turning uglier one by one. After they left, Harry went to lock the door, then turned to face me. Iris. I blankly opened my eyes, trying to focus on Harry's face with a double vision. It felt like a flame was burning inside me, from my throat to my chest and all over my body, even my brain felt foggy and heavy. Are you okay? I shook my head slowly, gripping his shirt collar with my hot fingertips, my voice hoarse. Hot. The slightly joyful expression on Erica's face at the banquet, combined with the strange sweet fragrance in the room, revealed the answer. I felt like I had turned into a plant in a tropical rainforest, rooted in dry, cracked soil, longing for a downpour. Harry was the cloud I held on to tightly. Midway through the rain, it suddenly stopped, and I looked up in confusion. In the dim light, I saw Harry's eyes, full of unpredictable emotions. Iris, are you scared? Scared. Of what? If they barge in tonight and find us like this. The words came out with a bit of force, causing my voice to tremble when I spoke. Harry pulled me closer, calming me by rubbing my head. That means everything will be exposed, would you be scared? Yes. If things were exposed, Harry's once bright future would come to an end. and I would owe him even more. In the darkness, Harry's sharp eyes dimmed. So, will you leave me again? My thoughts were slow, and it took me a long time to slowly shake my head. I will tell them that I wanted to retaliate against Daniel, so I deliberately seduced you. The last word was forcefully swallowed back by Harry. The misty emotions in his eyes disappeared in an instant. He smirked and covered my eyes. I'm not as useless as your ex-husband. Harry leaned in close to my ear, his breath hot, a double entendre. You just need to be sure of your intentions, leave the rest to me. Chapter 10. The next morning, Harry returned to the club early. Before leaving, he placed his hand on the steering wheel and asked me if I wanted to go back with him. I shook my head. I need to stop by the company. Daniel was reluctant to sign the divorce agreement, and my father, upon learning about my divorce, was furious. These matters needed closure. After bidding farewell to Harry, I got into the car to return to the company and opened Weibo. Initially, I didn't have a Weibo account. Later, with Daniel's help, Bennett Corporation made a comeback from the brink of bankruptcy, and for convenience, he had me register a Weibo account. But I knew it was just for Erica's fans to express their emotions more conveniently. Since the day I registered, my Weibo was filled with criticism. If it weren't for you meddling, Erica wouldn't have broken up with President Daniel and gone abroad heartbroken. You despicable person. Knockoff, did you undergo plastic surgery to look like Erica? I rarely checked Weibo and paid no attention to these messages. Bennett Corporation had just been saved from bankruptcy, there were too many matters to handle. Moreover, as the person who helped, Daniel, also my husband in name, had many demands on me. Pressured by this favor, I had no choice but to comply. Now, because of the hot search topics about infidelity in marriage, my comment section was even more lively. Imitation sister, not satisfied with seducing President Daniel, you have to harm others too? Harlot, so disgusting. In addition to vulgar language, there was one seemingly rational comment that was liked the most and rose to the top of the comments section. Even if Daniel and Erica had some wrongdoing first, you shouldn't commit infidelity in marriage, after all, morality is meant to constrain oneself. My finger paused on that comment for a moment. Before I could click to reply, a message from Harry popped up. Don't look at Weibo, don't look for these few days. I hesitated, replying with a single word. Okay. He immediately called. Have you already seen it? For some reason, at that moment, Harry's face from 7 years ago suddenly flashed in my mind. He had taken me back to his home, staying in that not too large bedroom while he went to shower. Idle, I casually opened his computer, and a prominent offer from a renowned foreign university popped up. In a daze, Harry's panicked voice came from the door. Don't look. I closed the page, watching him silently. I have already seen it. He stood at the door, with slightly damp hair, facing me in silence, the summer heat and humidity spreading between us. Iris, speak. Harry's voice rang out again, pulling me out of my reminiscence. Yes, I've seen it. I tugged at the corner of my lips. What they said is not wrong. Harry chuckled. How can it not be wrong? It's Daniel's vacillation, not wanting to let Erica go, yet wanting to marry you. Being with me, at most, can be considered self-defense. This term, unexpectedly, could be used in such a way. I smiled briefly, seeing the gates of Bennett Corporation getting closer and closer, preparing to end the call. But for some reason, out of nowhere, I suddenly felt a surge of courage. Harry.
Yeah.
Have you seen the comments? They all say that Daniel looks a lot like you. Chapter 11. Walking into the office, I was met with a forceful slap from my father. It hit my face, causing it to turn, a ringing in my ears, and a taste of blood in my mouth. Absurd. He pointed at my nose, shouting. You've grown wings now, daring to mention divorce to President Daniel. I used my tongue to nudge the sore flesh in my mouth and slowly turned my face. Even your mother fell ill because of you. You better go and explain to President Daniel that you were temporarily out of your mind. If you don't make things right today, I won't spare you. Daniel was sitting in my office chair, his smile arrogant. I told you, Iris. I want you to crawl back to me like a dog, kneel down and beg me to remarry you. I closed my eyes. Countless past scenes, like fragments cut from a film reel, flashed before my eyes. It was the summer of 7 years ago, the night before Harry and I went to the beach. My mother knelt in front of me, crying and begging me not to make things difficult for her. She said, "Your boyfriend, his family is just an ordinary one. Even if you love him, what can he do for us? What will happen to us if the family business collapses? How will I survive?" She knelt, slapping herself on the face repeatedly. As long as my father didn't tell her to stop, she wouldn't dare to stop. My father sat on the sofa, looking impatient. "Iris, don't degrade yourself willingly. My daughter, even if you're being sold, you should fetch a good price." He said that if I insisted on being with Harry, not considering the family, he would ruin Harry's family. After that, they dressed me up like a commodity, taking me to every banquet, every social gathering. Later, when Erica's fans online cursed me, no one spoke up for me, and this was also the reason. My reputation had become extremely unpleasant in the 4 years of waiting for a good offer. When I was a child, and the family business was doing well, the dance and piano lessons I took became the capital for my father to sell me off at a good price. If I refused, he wouldn't hit me. He would go and mistreat my mother, forcing me to yield. Bennett Corporation was founded by him. Now facing a crisis, he is determined to save it at all costs, even if it means sacrificing his own wife and daughter. This kind of life went on for a long time, until that gathering where he met Daniel. He was drunk, and when he saw me, he suddenly stood up, walked over to me, and hugged me, whispering in my ear, "Erica." In my heart, I also called out, "Harry." In reality, they only had a few similarities, like the mole on the bridge of their noses, slightly upturned eye ends, and the habit of looking down when speaking due to their height. But that was about it, at least they were far less similar than Erica and I. I just missed Harry too much, not as embarrassed as when I was 18. "Iris." Daniel's voice brought me back to reality. He walked up to me, squinted his eyes, reached out, and grabbed my neck. "If you can serve me well today, I won't hold you accountable for what happened between you and that Harry." The hand gripping my neck was extremely forceful, making it hard for me to breathe. I opened my mouth slightly. Security. The office door was suddenly pushed open, and several security personnel rushed in, forcing Daniel to let go. My father also wanted to rush over but was restrained, only able to yell at me with his neck tilted back. "Iris, have you gone mad? How dare you act like this in my company?" I straightened out the wrinkled collar of my shirt, calmly looking at them. "It's not your company, Dad. It seems like you haven't quite grasped the situation yet. Now, Bennett Corporation is under my control." Chapter 12. After getting married, the chaotic mess that was Bennett Corporation was handed over to me to manage. Because of Daniel, my father always trusted me. In these 3 years, right under his nose, I gradually replaced all the core members of the company with my own people. I looked at Daniel's displeased expression and calmly said, "From now on, I will be in charge of Bennett Corporation. There are still phases 2 and 3 of cooperation between our two companies. We can't let things get too tense. I hope you can handle this rationally." Daniel was used to being superior in front of me. This was the first time I saw him lose control of his emotions. He stared at me and asked a series of questions. "Were you plotting all of this from the beginning when you married me? Have you always seen me as a substitute for Harry? Iris, in these 3 years, you've taken care of me so meticulously and obediently. Is there any sincerity in it at all?" When he asked the final question, his tone was almost impatient. I thought for a moment and found it a bit amusing. "On what grounds are you asking me these questions? From the beginning, we had a business marriage. You used me as a substitute for Erica and as a tool to provoke her. I needed the money and power of Whitaker Corporation to take control of my family's company. It was just a transaction. What sincerity are you looking for?" My sincerity had been given to the young Harry when I was 18. Thinking of Harry, those inexplicable emotions began to surge in my heart once again. I absent-mindedly pulled out a cigarette case, shook out a cigarette, bit into it, and waved to the dazed Daniel. If there's nothing else.
Goodbye.
In the evening, it started to drizzle outside. I sat in the car, took out my phone, and realized Harry had posted a new update. On Weibo, he publicly questioned the organizers of the banquet, asking why they allowed a large number of journalists to enter his room without permission. Someone in the comments asked him, "So that night, were you really in a room with the married Iris?" Yes. Harry's response was unusually direct. Receiving the future boss, any problem? After this comment was posted, the official account of Harry's team released a statement. In order to deliver better results to our supporters, the club has always responded to the transfer fee of the ace player, which has caused a temporary financial crisis. Regarding the rumors online, we hereby clarify, Iris is currently our team's major shareholder and the future boss. Following this, team members, including Harry, reposted this Weibo update. Welcome, boss. In just a few hours, my Weibo comments section was flooded with thanks and praises. Sister has great vision, investing in us was the right choice. I heard before that Rainbow was a small team, almost selling the club's assets to bring Harry back home. Does this mean that without Iris's help, the club might have closed one day? Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you to the main sponsor Mom. The insults from Erica's fans had long been pushed to the bottom by Harry's fans and his team's fans. The fighting power of esports fans should not be underestimated. In just a short while, many people had been criticized into deleting their comments. I sat in the car, stunned, until the spark from the cigarette burned my fingers and caused pain. I hurriedly extinguished the cigarette and messaged Harry. When did we reach a cooperation agreement? Sister, don't you believe investing in me can make money? Harry called directly. I paused for a moment. You just returned to the country, your career is just beginning to develop, there's no need to pay such a high price for me. The originally hurried sound of wind and rain on his end gradually faded away, as if he had walked into a quiet place. In the end, only his slightly cold, clear voice remained. So, are you planning to end our relationship like this again? I lit another cigarette, holding it between my fingers, and responded somewhat awkwardly. Harry, you need to consider your career. He sounded like he was laughing in frustration, paused for a moment, his voice slightly deeper. Iris, why do you think I came back to the country? In your eyes, Harry, who has already achieved first place and received honors, why would he come back, starting over from an unknown small team? Take a guess? My embarrassing and absurd marriage actually had nothing to do with him. The AC sports player with a promising future didn't need to involve himself in seeking revenge just for the sake of watching a good show. When Harry asked me, it was a question I had guessed the answer to from the beginning. Before I could respond, he seemed impatient and went straight to the point. Iris, I never forgot that summer. It felt like someone suddenly grabbed my heart, but also sprinkled inside it a candy that was on the verge of melting. I couldn't decide whether it was more painful or sweet. Taking a deep drag of the cigarette, before the tears choked me up, I hoarsely said. Harry, I want to see you. Right now. Chapter 13. In a famous private hot pot restaurant in the city center, I faced Harry's teammates. He stood to the side with a cold expression, clearly not in a good mood. Several young boys stood in a row, greeting in unison. Hello, boss. I curved my lips habitually, asking gently. Why did you all come along? After looking around, everyone's gaze landed on Harry beside me. Harry said he wanted to meet someone important, we just finished reviewing the game, so we all came together. We didn't expect to meet the boss. Due to the industry's nature, these kids were quite young. The youngest one, named Simon, wasn't even of legal age, wearing a high school uniform, looking exceptionally well behaved. Putting on airs. Harry coldly remarked before taking my hand in front of everyone, leading me towards the private room. I tried to pull my hand back, but it only tightened. Your teammates are still kids. Is it appropriate for us to act like this in front of them? Harry stared at me for 2 seconds, somewhat displeased, and said, "There's nothing wrong with it. They're just pretending." I turned around to see several teenagers standing there, looking at Harry with resentment in their eyes. "Come on, we just want to leave a good impression on the new boss. Is there something wrong with that?" Even after we sat down in the private room, Harry didn't let go of my hand. Simon was the first to speak. "Boss, don't overthink it. Although we're young, we understand everything." "Yes, yes." Another person chimed in. "We fully support you being with Harry, and what Daniel did to you, openly confronting you at the airport. You and Harry were just acting in self-defense." One after another, their choice of words was so peculiar. One kid, perhaps having had too much cola, suddenly stood up. "Burp, true love is innocent." Seeing the conversation veering off track, Harry tapped the table with his chopsticks, expressionless, and said, "Let's eat." Everyone quietly lowered their heads. No matter if I was taken to various social gatherings by my father to promote sales, or after marriage, following Daniel to his friend's party, I got used to feeling malice and cold stares in the crowd. It felt like I had been walking on a tightrope for so many years, with my heart hanging in midair. But now, suddenly, it landed on solid ground. After dinner, the rain outside grew heavier. A few kids waved
Goodbye.
to me warmly. "Boss, come visit our training center when you have time to see us practice." After they left, only Harry and I remained. He had a mint candy in his mouth, hands in the hoodie pocket, looking up at the raindrops falling under the streetlight, then he opened the car door and pulled me in. I fell into his lap, swaying, subconsciously grabbing onto something. Harry grunted, the redness creeping from his ears to his neck. Realizing the situation was getting out of hand, I subconsciously tried to pull my hand back, but he held it. "Sister, you really know how to pick a place." His voice filled with desire, inching closer to my ear, the hot breath enveloping a hint of minty coolness. "Since you've grabbed hold, don't let go." I pursed my lips. "Hot." Just one word, but Harry seemed to lose control completely. He could hardly contain his restless breath between his teeth, closing his eyes briefly, forcibly pulling me off him and placing me in the passenger seat, starting the car. "Iris, you're seducing me, you're finished." Chapter 14. Outside, the rain poured down heavily. In Harry's bedroom, the damp heat rose along with the light. He pressed against the most sensitive part of my lower back, his voice husky, light, or heavy. "I'm going to kiss you. Don't hide, Iris." In the dim light, his eyes carried a seductive lure. "Bite down a bit tighter." Outside the glass window, the rain roared. Like an irrigation spanning the entire century. At 4 a.m, I ran my fingers through my just-dried hair and finally remembered the serious matter at hand. Even if you're a top sports player, won't your real boss be unhappy about what you're doing? How about I meet him and we really talk about cooperation and investment? Harry raised an eyebrow, then suddenly smiled. "It seems like you still haven't figured it out. There's no boss, the owner of the club is me. Sister." I stared at him in astonishment. It was only through Harry's explanation that I understood. From the beginning, this team was established domestically by him through connections. The $40 million annual salary was just a casual mention. I can give myself as much as I want. I tell you all this to prove that I am not the naive and overly romantic boy you described 7 years ago. I can protect you now, whether it's from your parents' coercion or the storm of public opinion. My heart felt sour. These words were all things I had said to him when I first brought up breaking up. It was raining outside, and he still carried the smell of the damp sea breeze from the day before. He stubbornly stood in front of me, looking straight into my eyes. "Iris, I don't agree to break up." I chuckled. "It's not up to you to agree, Harry. I'm informing you unilaterally. You gave up going to school for a relationship, sacrificing your own future. How could I truly like someone like you, so full of naive sweetness? From the beginning, it was just a game for me. That day, I said many harsh words. In the end, with red eyes, tears blending into the rain, Harry still refused to leave. I turned and walked away, and he waited downstairs all night. Coming back to reality from my memories, I whispered. I thought you would hate me. Of course, I hate you. He tugged at the corner of his lips and suddenly said. Actually, before leaving, on the day I went to the airport, I couldn't help but go see you. I was stunned. Unfortunately, I saw a man escorting you home. You were wearing a formal dress, looking beautiful. When he left, he even kissed you. I tried to remember, but couldn't recall who that person was. During the years when my father tried so hard to push me towards success, such incidents happened more than once. Feeling a bit embarrassed, I lowered my eyes, but Harry continued. When I was studying abroad, I couldn't stop thinking about you. The words you said when breaking up with me, and the fact that just a month after our breakup, you went on a date with someone else. I thought about it a lot and felt that what you said was right. He chuckled self-deprecatingly. I was too young, hadn't even decided my own future, how could I ask you for a commitment? So later, when someone invited me to enter the professional gaming scene, I agreed. Iris, I want to stand in a dazzling place, to let you see me. Much later, I got to know Harry's teammates from when he was competing abroad. They told me that at that time, Harry was obsessed with winning the championship. Several times, he pushed his reflexes to the limit, almost causing permanent damage. When he lifted the championship trophy, he kept looking at the dark audience stands. I asked him who he was looking at, but he remained silent. But on this night, I knew nothing of that. Just covering my eyes, I softly said. I thought you would come back to take revenge on me. I came back to date you. Harry gazed into my eyes. Iris, I know what you're thinking. You've had a tough few years, and you've become completely different from your younger self. You're still trying to portray your 18-year-old self in front of me. But it's not necessary. He leaned in and kissed me. Because I love you, completely. Chapter 15. On the day of the beginning of autumn, the three-phase cooperation between Whitaker Corporation and Bennett Corporation officially began. I called my mom calmly and told her. Bennett Corporation is now in my hands. If you want to leave my dad, I will help you. In return, she scolded me for being unfilial. After hanging up the phone, I told Harry. I can't save her. Probably being tormented by my dad for a lifetime is her fate. He nodded, tidied up my messy collar indifferently, his slightly tousled hair framing his face. You've been delayed by her for 7 years. I couldn't let my whole life be ruined because of her. I reached for a cigarette box in my bag, thought for a moment, then put it back. Daniel contacted me, saying he agreed to the divorce, but he wants to meet me before signing the divorce agreement. Harry's expression turned cold immediately. I'll go with you. 3 days later in the evening, I met Daniel at the same bar. He looked at me with drunken eyes, and the first thing he said was, I've broken up with Erica. Iris, can we remarry? Before I could respond, Harry coldly chuckled. The main actor has returned. What use is there for this imitation? Seeing Harry, Daniel's expression turned ugly in an instant. He moved his lips and looked at me. When did you two get together? None of your business. I reached out a hand towards him expressionlessly. The divorce agreement, give it to me. Daniel sighed bitterly. Iris, I truly regret it. I underestimated you before because of the rumors, they all spoke ill of you. Also, back then, you always seemed submissive in front of me, I didn't know. Don't know what? I cut him off abruptly. Don't know that this is my true self? Don't know that I smoke and drink, defy my father? Or don't know that you're just despicable, rejecting those who treat you well, only longing for those who ignore you? We still have business cooperation, Daniel. You've seen the world, don't make these ridiculous poses anymore. Daniel looked at me with a defeated expression, a hint of cheap pain in his eyes. Ignoring him, I took the divorce agreement from his hand and walked away. Later, Erica came to the company looking for me. In front of me, she scolded me for being fickle, not yet divorced from Daniel but already being ambiguous with Harry, showing a despicable side. After listening for a while, losing my patience, I stood up, grabbed her by the neck, and brought the lit cigarette closer. A spark of light and dark stopped a centimeter away from her cheek.
Ah.
What are you doing? How dare you, Iris, how dare you? In Erica's terrified screams, I smirked slightly. You've schemed against me tirelessly, instigating your fan network to attack me. I didn't bother with you before because I still needed Daniel. Now, with just this little ability of yours, it's best not to provoke me anymore. I let go of her, extinguished the cigarette but in the ashtray, and watched her leave in a sorry state. I made a call to the security department. Don't let her in anymore. After doing all this, I turned to the side and said, "Come out." Harry emerged from the shadows behind the curtain. Sister. I glanced at him. A while ago, I asked my classmate abroad to help me investigate some interesting things. Whether to use it, when to use it, I leave it up to you to decide. Chapter 16. When the summer of the second year arrived, the project between Bennett Corporation and Whitaker Corporation concluded successfully. Using the information Harry found, I sent Erica and Daniel trending by revealing news of them gathering crowds to do drugs abroad. Both of them were taken in for investigation. Whitaker Corporation's stock price plummeted, and I seized many projects that originally favored Daniel. Most likely they'll be behind bars. Simon continued typing rapidly on the keyboard, not even looking back. Going abroad for further studies, TSK, hanging out in nightclubs every day, who knows what they're studying. Several people gossiped while doing their routine speed training, looking gleeful. Harry remained silent for a while, until the word of victory appeared on the screen. He pushed the keyboard forward. Training ends for today. He held my hand. Let's go on a date. Simon shouted from behind. The finals are next week, Captain, you. Harry turned his head, gave a cold glance, and suddenly fell silent. After a moment, he whispered. Have fun with the boss. I never expected Harry to bring me to the seaside. The deserted beach from 7 years ago had been developed over the years and was now a somewhat famous tourist spot. He led me to a secluded spot by the rocks, the sea breeze lifting the hem of my skirt with its humid, warm scent. Harry had a mint candy in his mouth and kissed me. As our breaths intertwined, countless memories flashed through my mind. Chaotic and fleeting, they eventually settled on the deep kiss from 8 years ago, still awkward and brash. After this lingering kiss, he leaned back slightly, smiling gently. After the finals next week, I'm going to retire. I stared at him in surprise. Retire?
Yeah.
In this industry, hand speed and reaction time have always been linked to age. At 24, it's already the end of a professional career. I should have retired earlier. He paused, looking down at me. It's just that, I want to win one more championship. In front of you, in the country, to show you a victory. Hard to describe, the overwhelming emotions that surged in my heart in that moment. But I had grown accustomed to restraint, and in the end, all I could do was hold him tightly and whisper. I'm sorry. After this, I won't miss any important moments in your life. On the day of the finals, as the new owner of the Rainbow team, I stood behind Harry. Watching him and a few teammates raise the trophy together. Thinking about what his foreign teammates had told me, how Harry looked both joyful and melancholic the first time he lifted the championship trophy. A sudden pang of some sour swelling pain filled my heart. During the press conference that followed, he announced his retirement decision. Someone asked, "What are the plans for your career next? Have you considered staying at Rainbow as a coach?" Harry nodded seriously. I do plan to stay. From now on, I'm the team's boss lady. That night, my Weibo comments section was filled with enthusiastic fans coming to offer their blessings. And Harry's secondary account, which had been inactive for years, posted a new Weibo update. From now on, I'll peacefully be a good husband. Sitting on the couch, I liked that post. Suddenly, Harry asked me, "Do you know the origin of the team's name?" I shook my head, turning to look at him. The team's name is Rainbow because I want to be with my rainbow goddess. He set down the trophy, came over to kiss me. Iris, I want to be by your side forever.